Hi, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much for actually organizing this. I feel like it's a very important time to have a collective discussion. So today I am not presenting super fancy projects. It's actually two very simple piece of work that really try to bring the technology to local communities. So I name it the title Architecture Machine Without Architects in bracket. Imagine a future where cityscapes evolve not from the drafting tables of star architects, but from the collective imagination of citizens, mediated by machines, where AI doesn't replace us, but transform us into facilitators of democratic design. So today I want to ask, how does generative AI redefine our role in a hyperdense, hyper-accelerated urban future? And so I want to begin with the question of, do machines see in order to situate AI in the architectural history? And I want to just show this video that I made with my media collective Current.cam, where we are imagining a future where all data stream from all of our cameras, all of our cell phones would converge into a precise model of the world. And we will be able to seamlessly navigate the reconstruction of reality interfaced by generated videos, which predict the future from that data. So back in 2024, OpenAI published their technical paper on the video generator Sora, but they were more ambitious than just generating some funny images. In the paper, they made the argument that Sora isn't just generating pixels, but it's actually a world simulator. And in Digital Humanities, neonatal input discuss how these large video models are not just some technical extension to image generation. It doesn't just build relationship between images or like a spatial montage. It actually embodies the dynamics of 3D structure, physical interaction, and object permanence. Like per se, objects don't fall into each other like in physical reality. So imagine we can simulate realities to the magnitude of 10,000 times faster than making experiments in physical reality. That will be dream of the architect. And we can actually teach robots to see and construct a causality system that can predict and anticipate what actually happened next. This means that the pixel generator possesses at least some basic understanding of the physical worlds, even though they don't have a physical body, and of the objects and animals and people that live within these worlds. So as designers, I guess the question is, how do we situate this within our process of design? And to what extent does the materiality of our physical world contribute to ways of knowing or learning? Or can the pixel be a sufficient representation of the world while we are designing? Now, of course, this debate doesn't start here. It started from like last century, where Norbert Wiener's cybernetic loop argues that materiality and tactile information shape intelligence. Or on the other hand, we have Marvin Minsky's symbolic AI, where the pixel alone forms a correlational system that predict and anticipate. And I think this tension between physical embodiment and pixel as reality frames the debate on AI's role in design. But obviously, the more important question is, where does architecture stand in this picture? And how does it help us reflect deeper question of what is architecture? And so to put it more operational, I try to think about it as a human-computer interaction problem. And as in most of informatics, theories and design is based on one end, objectivity and mathematics, and on the other end, subjectivity and language. So this is the spectrum, very simple one. On the objectivity side, we have like user modeling, experimental research, simulation, control environment. On the other one, we have the social simological approach, where we are more like anthropologists looking into complex human behavior, actually working with people and understand how they use the system. But obviously, we want to find whatever intersects in between. And this is where I think architecture actually stands in the middle. So to show the second piece of work, I want to show a very, very simple experiment and just taking Midjourney to a real world context and understand what it means to have people participate in design. And so in Hong Kong, you easily have 10,000 stakeholders in one housing estate. Imagine you have 10,000 people working on the same computer. It's impossible. And a lot of the space between the buildings were actually left untouched. This also echoes of post-colonial power structures. And so last year, I really tested this. I invite a bunch of citizens, like shop owners, students, older adults, to co-design public spaces using a generative AI interface that also generate 3D model put into metaverse. They put memories, needs, sketches, and AI will actually render the hybrid proposal. The application of AI to solve the most banal architectural problem, yet the problem impacts us on an everyday level as citizens. I want to show one example of the output. For instance, an older adult told us about the story of a lost wet market that got demolished. And they think that the younger generation doesn't appreciate these spaces anymore because it's dirty, it's lousy. And so we work with machines to actually fuse it with an intergenerational future. So we actually taught the older adult to generate image using Midjourney and imagine himself within these spaces. And so in the process, we became curators of images that express their spatial desire. And so in the sense, the AI didn't actually design things, but it translated needs. Afterwards, a bachelor student prototyped it in Metaverse, tailored the design to the high density context of public housing in Hong Kong with measurements and placement from user perspective. And in the very end, just trying to think how we can have a physical manifestation of the whole design process, we learned from one of the older adults who was a retired craftsman on how to apply traditional joinery methods using upcycled material and make an object that would actually embed their cultural memory in the neighborhood. So this is really just a very first step experiment to think about how digital reality by generative AI can be grounded in physical constraint, and that a pipeline can be made tangible and democratized so that community can actually participate in architectural design within this techno-oriented future. So just to sum it up, I'm thinking that this might lead to three hypothetical futures. The first one is a pixel future. The machine see it in 2D, but it reduced the design into images, and the archetype become obsolete, replaced by viral Instagram aesthetics. The second one is a voxel future, something that we're very familiar with here at the Bartlett, where 3D simulation dominate. So architects are augmented, AI handles zoning laws, but human crafts narratives. And finally, this is something probably now out of my imagination, is a textile future, where we have tactile information, the Norbert Wiener approach, that we have embodied AI. The machine can learn about the world and spatial informatics through material, climate, trauma, and just by navigating space. And so architect transform into a social technical poet that weaves stories into structure, working with embodied AI. But whether or not we actually steer towards one of these futures, it's not just about how we use the technology, but how we think about power in the process of design. And so in the context of the Hong Kong experiment, can the AI actually help us or replicate colonial hierarchies in its inherent bias and modes of production? That's something that I want to look into as a next step. And how can we return design to local communities? I would just like to end with these three words, which is participatory, augmented, and transform. AI as a participant in design, not a replacement. AI must augment our creativity, not automate it. And it should transform architects into community builders instead of technocrats. And for that, it means we have to design proactive ways to learn to communicate AI and interact with it constructively. It can be very simple open source tools that anyone can use, but architects should take the role of how we lead this participatory turn in the future. So thank you. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you for the several keywords and also that you highlighted.